Hey guys, Senza here, your favorite solo male entertainer. Today, thanks to my God-given talent of giving video games vasectomies, I have found a challenge disguised as a human rights violation. A Dying Light run so heinous, it will surely be thrown in the history books and banned by multiple nations. Can you beat Dying Light without walking? With Dying Light 2 around the corner, I thought why not celebrate by spanking and ruining a game where momentum and parkour are absolutely imperative. To avoid walking and running, we will be setting a keybind to our spacebar. This keybind will allow us to move forward a few inches every time we jump. Let me tell you that this was terrible, and I'm definitely going to be thrown on an FBI watch list somewhere, if of course I wasn't already. Now that we're on the same page, will I be able to make it through the Demolisher fight without losing my mind? Is the final quest even possible when volatiles are determined to send you to the Shadow Realm? Well, we're about to find out. I love you. If you enjoy the video, tickle that like button and grab a Kool-Aid Jammers, as we're going full Hulkmania this run, and you little cum socks are coming along for the ride. The first season of this anime starts as a covert operation. Carrying on the determination of an absolute champion, Genghis Crane stormed Haran asking questions and received answers he didn't expect. Thanks to an unlucky spawn coupled with an onset mental deficiency, Mirage's voice actor failed, leaving us disappointed but not surprised, a line I'm sure that your parents have hit you with a few times. A member of the foreign and alien race known as women came to rescue our little meat puppet, and so began our crusade out in the world of Dying Light. Once I had control, I realized that I made a terrible and irreversible mistake. The distance I could cover in a single jump was almost insulting. With this lobotomized idea, I was cruising at a speed slower than a quadriplegic stuck in mud. I made it to the 13th floor after a measly 17 minutes. With the lead pipe appropriated, I sent the zombie in question to a place where dead zombies go, discovered that Haran was home to many OSHA violations ever since it was abandoned by all forms of religion and government, and got to the tutorial. Dying Light's parkour tutorial cannot be skipped, as these mechanics are an integral part of this game. With no momentum, parkour was our bane. This challenge is very antithesis. Word of the day, by the way. But trust me when I say you can absolutely easily beat this without walking. I mean, there definitely isn't a jump that involves full momentum that 100% cucks the entire run. Like totally. There.
Why, SpongeBob? Why?
These $60 PlayStation and Xbox gift cards totally aren't covering the screen, so you can't see me failing the challenge by using my keyboard. So go ahead and grab yourself a copy of Dying Light 2 on me. I promise I'm not bribing you guys. With this 5-minute tutorial complete and a record-breaking 45 minutes, it was time to head out into the open world. Where were we going? In the direction of cheeks that were calling to be dissected, of course. Making my way to Brecken's first light trap took almost forever, and what made things worse was that zombies were faster than me in these conditions. I can't stress this enough, this run should not only be illegal, but negatively impact my credit score for even attempting it. Fortunately for us, my KD was looking mad decent. Being disabled had no negative effect on my ability to intrigue these zombies with my lethal levels of testosterone. Once I was done swinging my meat around like it was my full-time job, the GRE, also known as the Giga Rigid Erection, because all they do is f everyone and everything, asked me to be their Splinter Cell double agent, and Crane obliged. I pushed forward in the direction of the distribution center, and a good 40 minutes later, I finally made it and planned my method of attack. Just like how ketchup pre-cum can f your whole meal up, this rectum soldier will f your whole livelihood up. Fighting him was what I thought would be my only option, until I realized that this was never an option. I jumped to my objective and realized that we had a small problem. I was about to call it and cheat once again. That is until our merciful rectum soldier let us know that he was on our side. A nice spank of my bussy put me into full flight and through the obstacle that we needed to get past. This strat is beyond human comprehension. I know, but we aren't going to complain. We take these. Now, gentlemen, there was no way I was going to continue through the entire game like this. This one quest alone took me about 3 hours. So in an effort to take refuge from my insanity and Techland's insidious devices, I decided that we're going to need to throw some training wheels onto this run. I hope you're ready to suckle on the tender knowledge because I'm about to bust your brain hole wide open. Operation I Found My Dad's Kissing Practice Toy was now in full effect. And many of you viewers may be wondering, what can we possibly do to make this easier? Let me tell you, there are a few things. The first being to pick a god and pray, and the second, a grappling hook. This device here not only provides the ultimate Dying Light experience, but will optimize this anti-speedrun. Some of you may be thinking that this is a terrible idea, and the hook will turn me into a soy boy through osmosis. But trust me, that is definitely not the case. Now you're probably as confused as a blind child would be if they were given a basketball and was told to read it. How exactly were we supposed to get a grappling hook this early into the game? Thanks to me being a world-renowned gamer, I know about a few power leveling techniques in this game that have totally never been seen before on the history of the internet. Over here at this specific quarantine zone, which is available from the beginning of the game by the way, you can run, or in my case, hop on through and grab these packages here. Leaving the building before grabbing them all resets every single one, letting you grab them once again. When turned in, these packages give you that colossal facial of XP. Our only problem was that I couldn't play this video game like a normal human being, and I needed over 100 of these bad boys. I could only do about a run and a half before dying to the safety hazards around this place, so we were looking at 6 packages every 15 minutes. With my very own Paralympics created, it took me a solid 6.5 hours, but eventually I was a gold medalist. Now that you guys understand how we'll be achieving this victory, let's get back to this straight up hot and sweaty ass of a run. I was still rolling at a snail's pace, but triggering my NOS every 15 seconds had your boy in nirvana. Thankfully, you guys couldn't hear my audio, because all it was me crying, shitting, and coming from happiness. Before I could continue, it was in my millennial responsibility to find Genghis Crane, aka Jacob Crawford, a fit that dripped so hard he would need a coaster to stand on. Once that was complete, I flung myself out into the open world looking for some ass, and the packages that Brecken wanted me to collect seemed like the right amount. With hubris levels now high enough to compete with that of Logan Paul's, I was ready for anything, and even attempted to take on the goons at the second airdrop. These men, I'm sure, only read at a 3rd grade level, but let me tell you, they brought that f***ing heat at a professional MMA grade level. No matter my method of attack, or how many times I tried, with my disability, these humbled me. Once I was done receiving my good old doctor-prescribed ass ripping, I Spider-Man'd my way to the 3rd airdrop. Through government-mandated douchebaggery, the antizin here that was needed to cure some of the homies back at the quad was destroyed by my hands, and as a thank you, we were introduced to volatiles, my least favorite flavor of zombie. Being chased by one of these at nighttime is premium, life-changingly terrifying content. They spelt my death out with a capital D, but thanks to some odd game development, dying immediately almost seemed to be a form of speedrun tech. Once these volatiles had fun throwing dick around like they were stunt cock for Johnny Sins, I spawned at a safe house far from their location and happily hopped my way back to HQ without a problem. With word of antizin being gone, Brecken most definitely didn't enjoy this epic Chungus moment and sent me to work something out with Rise. Getting to Rise's headquarters was a breeze. Rise proved to me how little sex he had by making me work for this antizin, and I jumped on over to the first antenna to restore communication to this island. Seeing as I was already 10 plus hours into this run, it never crossed my mind that healing would be vital, and at this point I hadn't done much looting. This was a problem, especially since Hammer Dude over here had no issue cinnamon toast f***ing me into oblivion. Spending your V-Bucks in this game seems almost offensive, as exploration rewards you so damn much. But trust me, this was a must, especially since avoiding these creatures and their primal instinct was nearly impossible. I hopped my way back 7 times, and from the top of this dumpster, I was out here passing judgment in the land of Haran without breaking a sweat. Just for funsies, I did try climbing one of the antennas normally, but instead of explaining what happened, I'll just show you. Here's a clip that'll surely give your brain those happy chemicals. Enjoy.
I'm liking this. Cruising, baby. No!
With antennas activated and radio communication restored to Haran, I returned to Rise. In an effort to avoid copyright infringement on literally every evil character known to mankind, Rise hit me with the curveball and demanded more side quests. All I could tell you here is that I have never squeezed a W out for my ass cheeks this easily before. Thanks to me being a higher level, I was able to disguise myself as a zombie and rescue the fishing town. It was absolutely so damn easy, I thought something was wrong and got myself killed because of it. And do you remember the shooter that gave us problems on the roof of the gas station last run? Well, the only person capable of talking to him now is J-Station through a Ouija board because he was dead as f. Back at the compound, Rise decided that he was going to be passing out L's like they were Pokemon badges. We were leaving with less than half of what he promised, but this was okay because Jade and I, and when I say Jade and I mean only me, was going to pull off the heist of the century. Haran High School and their teachers had no problem schooling and enlightening me on their methods of goateeing and sitting their stinky assholes right on my forehead. I want to be clear that I made it a personal challenge to not use throwables that deal damage this run, as they were pretty much my crutch the last. So this pain was self-inflicted, and your results may differ. Fighting each one of these men felt like a raid boss. If hell was real, then surely this was the 7th circle. The only reason I was able to wring a victory out of these septic undies was because of the fact that when enemies die, they don't respawn, even if you die. As for the rest of this adventure, I died some more, was stun locked and spawn trapped, found salvation through my grappling hook, and then discovered that I went through this suffering for nothing, as there was no antizin. Back at HQ, Zara asked me to grab some zombie tissue samples as it could help towards developing a cure. This mission here alone had me suffer a near heart attack after being chased and getting my tits milked straight off of my chest. But what made things worse was being reminded that a timed segment was coming up, not even 10 minutes after dealing with the tragedy that was Haran High. My ability to haul straight up ass to my objective without getting into too much trouble was so damn tasty, Gordon Ramsay would be jealous. And inside, it turns out Raheem was a big fat stupid idiot. This man had congenital defects, all of them to be precise, and this was made apparent by his way of thinking. 3 minutes and 30 seconds was all the time that I had to hop over into that manhole, swim through the sewers, and plant C4 throughout this multi-story building. Using the grappling hook off cooldown, I would get to the final floor with around 40 seconds left. On paper, this time should be enough, but immediately after planting the final charge, you are met by the CEO of Firehouse Subs over here, and his daily deal of buy one large sandwich, get a regular go f*** yourself free.
Well, here's Fireman with his rebar phallus f***ing me in my ass once again.
Most people would have taken the L, just walked normally, and let this problem internalize and manifest into crippling alcoholism. But me, on the other hand, will let this manifest into crippling autism. There was no way in hell that I was going to give up. It took me an hour and 30 minutes to crack this section. Neurons fired at full strength, I used all 6 of my remaining brain cells to find the optimal path and grapple placements. There were a few times where I nearly lost it due to getting my shit pushed in by a volatile or testing another route only to find a dead end, but eventually we were victorious. Raheem decided it was time for him to hit that swap teams button, and generic villain Rise performed his generic villain plot bomb by attacking Hot Boy HQ. Once I got to Rise's Batcave, the climb was non-existent, and I had no trouble dropping anyone I encountered. Pushing through this place, I was practically begging for some more ass to beat, and when I made it down into the basement, it turns out that the enemies down here were also hungry for a bit of that pain. Although my method for killing gunmen only worked about 40% of the time, I was born for this. I may not know how to make friends and talk to humans in real life, but what I do know is how to send my enemies to God. Rise interrupted this rescue mission, and I was at the mercy of his gunmen. A monologue about how Jade was a plate of what he wanted with a side of what he needed later. I was slapped so hard I woke up in Skyrim and was put to the test of endurance. I died about as many times as you would have expected here. Our precious was taken away from us, and these groups of zombies were out here laying out ass-like combo meals. You didn't just get hit once, you got a solid 4 at a time, like it was a Costco family pack. All it took was a solid gallon and a half of minutes and my thumb burning from gamer gunking all over that space bar. And then I made it to the main attraction. An ass pounding so remarkable that it would take years of training and preparation to endure. The Demolisher was true to his name, capable of demolishing you in-game and demolishing your will to live. Getting away from him wasn't even possible, because by the time I would even move 3 feet, I would get slapped with a slab of rock. Because, you know, he's a fucking earthbender, I guess. Our only tactic was to stand next to this concrete block and face tank his damage, abusing the fact that when I respawn, he will still have the same health I left him at before I died. With the Demolisher demolished, Rise came to congratulate me on winning the Hunger Games. Crane did some absurd shit, like almost beating out the Beyblade lore, where Moses parted the Red Sea with the Beyblade in terms of absurdity, and then I was told to escape, something I literally couldn't do. The fact that I was pretty much a stationary target made this a whole lot easier for those gunmen, and I'm sure them firing at something that could barely move was gospel to their boners. I was stuck escaping the pit once again, just like the last video. I know what you're thinking. Oh hell yeah, this is exactly what I want to see. I mean, if this isn't gaming, then I don't know. But listen, stop. Spare a bit of empathy for not only the pain that I went through, but also for my neighbors and the fact that I surely gave them tinnitus from all of my screaming.
Hold fire, I'm not ready. Fuck, man.
A handful of poundings was all it took to break me. I accepted defeat and turned to a technique that was only possible if you had previously gone through ancient Buddhism monk training, aka watching my last video. These lesser life forms are a hassle to deal with, but if you just stand near spawn here, eventually you will realize that their spirits were willing, but their flesh spoke differently. With this weapon here, their coupon of getting in free ass beatings had now expired, and it was time to fuck. Although I had it much easier, leaving this place still took me around 30 minutes. Once I was finally out of that shithole, I was sent off on another wacky adventure to find Zara's colleague and figure out a cure. Following the same outcome as the last video, the sewers systematically devolved me into a Neanderthal, and truthfully, there was nothing that I could do about it. The very men that loosened my helmet straps and sent me on my merry way to hop and grapple through these sewers were the same men that f***ed me out of my opportunity to live. The zombies this time around seemed to be tougher than the lads over at the Chum Bucket, and Rise's firing squad did their job of straight up blasting my ass. I know that swimming isn't technically walking or running, but I wanted to stay true to the parameters of this run. Eventually, I discovered a technique that made swimming easier than normal. Hitting my spacebar followed by the C key immediately after let me swim faster than I would just hitting the spacebar by itself. With this tech, I could stick to the bottom of the sewers and avoid getting shot. The pain only continued on the other side, and trust me when I say that these men definitely met their kill quota for the day. Now, this video is already running longer than it should have at this point, and I have tons of things that I want to mention about the epilogue of the game. So I'll give you a quick canonical rundown on what happened from here all the way up until the Tahir fight. In an effort to save Haran, Crane and the creator of Dying Light, Bobby Light, tried their hardest to stop the inevitable. To spoil this episode, they failed, but at least Crane was able to live out his fantasies cosplaying as a zombie, running around and yiffing with the friendly locals. I would like to apologize to all of the Jade fans out there, because clearly out here in Haran, kidnapping is a lucrative business, especially if you want to lure out the main character of your video game. We found Jade's location, used my swimming technique to get inside, and realized immediately that we were figgity fucked. Seeing as I have only played through this game 3 times this year, 2 of them without a grappling hook, it never came to me that the end levels of the game would remove your ability to Rico Rodriguez around the map. During this mission, we were forced to proceed through with the challenge without a grappling hook, and this area was where I was going to need it most. It really takes a special type of gamer to look adversity in its face and drop a massive stinky shit in its mouth, and your boy was that gamer. Getting to my enemies swiftly to give them a good spanking wasn't viable without getting my orifices violated by lead. But with the gun I grabbed from the pit earlier, I was able to fight fire with fire, not worrying about how many tries it would take. In due time, and honestly just enjoying myself, I made it to yet another wall. This sea of meat here could only be crossed by momentum-based jumps. Fighting my way through was an option, but doing so would be equivalent to tucking razor blades in my foreskin. With my Q&A tester brain now in motion, I got a little wild and started scaling the walls that belonged to this sea. Doing so led to the discovery of an art exhibit that seemed climbable off in the distance. A few firecrackers and a cosplay as a zombie later, I metaphorically swam through all of that meat and made it to the other side. If this was the real world, I'd give this museum 5 stars on Yelp, because if it wasn't for this showcase here, I most definitely would have had to cheat in some sort of way. But enough about this museum. Let's talk about this wonderful game. Dying Light really had everything, including, but not limited to, a learning experience in which you learn that this run was a terrible idea, a dramatic death that'll surely jerk your tears right out of your eye sockets, and most importantly, a hot date with Tahir. To put it bluntly, Tahir f***ed and didn't give a damn in the world if it was with or without protection. I was fed a full course meal of a double fisting beatdown and defined the very definition of sound pollution with my screams. Using the same tactic I used on the Demolisher fight, I just stood there and accepted my fate. And on the dawn of my 7th try, I half-assedly defeated him. But hey, a dub is a dub, baby. Respect it. With Tahir down and my grappling hook back in my possession, I made my way to find the nearest radio tower to broadcast another shitty generic YouTuber podcast to the world. Going through this part wasn't too much of a hassle, as I didn't really stop to fight any of the infected. I got folded like fresh underwear a handful of times, scaled the radio tower, and thanks to the taxpayers of Haran, I was able to save us from our impending doom. Before we could throw our feet up, crack open a cold one, place some roadblocks, and just relax, I still had a boner to pick with Rise. But that erection had to wait to be satisfied, because I first needed to head over to the homie Camden to develop a cure. I have many accomplishments, learning how to use a power glove to play modern games, and being an absolute demon at Fortnite Among Us being a few of them. But nothing tops the fact that I tore straight up dick in this video game. Everywhere from mastering this challenge to knowing that the Demolisher at the end of this hallway was guaranteed to help me get past the needed crouch area. This run was surely in the bag. In Camden's headquarters, I admired his neurodivergent corner, was informed that a cure was possible, and was sent on my way to experience some of the craziest shit I have ever done in a challenge run. I'm going to have to ask you to watch with caution, because things are about to get f***ing wild. Before attempting this challenge, I thought about the final level and the fact that you are chased by a group of volatiles. For the most part, I thought it would be easy because of the grappling hook, but with the discovery that Techland cucks us in using it during the final missions, this entire section was going to be a stinky fart that couldn't be fanned away. Nevertheless, I was going to try, and that was a promise. Before starting the final fight, I grabbed a few weapons I knew the location of and crafted any DLC ones that I knew would put in some work. I went into Rise's dojo with the 2.5-inch chub ready to slay, and as I expected, he sent the horde after me using a forbidden jutsu. What he didn't know was that I already had the answer to his depravity. Killing a single zombie to disguise myself and throwing a firecracker was all that was needed to get down into the sewers. But dear God, I wasn't ready for the blowout that was waiting for me below. I came down here thinking that I could kill all of the volatile that would get in my way. This was a terrible idea, and I know I was a disgrace upon God's green planet, having even thought of this. My logic behind this terrible organic thought was built upon the fact that every enemy up until this point would perma-die even after reloading from a death. So originally the plan was to beat a volatile down per life until all of them were dead. It just so happens that volatiles don't fall under this permadeath category. The game was rigged from the start. After a few attempts at escaping, I was damn near ready to throw in that cum rag and count this as a massive L. Devastated, I scoured the internet for a potential skip, and this was when I found it. The only method that could get us through this hardship. Our only problem being that flares were not only expensive to craft, but I was going to need loads of them, as they are single-use items. Using the main menu to revert the save back to before the final mission, I made a single flare and perpetrated an act so vile I should probably be arrested. Normally, I would never do something like this, and I am risking the potential of now becoming your least favorite challenge YouTuber. But at this point, I was too invested in the possibility of completing this challenge, and I didn't feel like spending another 6 hours farming everything needed just to realize that in the end, I didn't make enough. This is the first and last time I will ever use a duplication glitch in one of my videos. With the stack of flares and medkits readied, I returned, snuck past the horde of zombies, and made it back into the sewers. My profound genius and master plan that I definitely didn't bum off of someone on the internet worked. The volatiles that inhabited these sewers were now lobotomized, leaving me free to do God's work. Hopping through the sewer section with my newfound tactic made this all a breeze. Not a single volatile touched my butt after being met with the rays of one of these flares. Without momentum, these jumps were not possible, but thanks to the ledges around the sewers, I was slowly able to make my way across gaps that not even I thought would have been possible. To make things better, I did all of these on my first try too. Every single time. All of them. We were cruising up Rise's tower and I literally thought we were in the home run, but boy was I wrong. In the final 10 minutes that are left of this game, you are forced to cross a Genghis crane to get to a building that Rise is located in. While you are making your way across, that scum sleight of hand RPGs the crane, making hopping across this out of the question. There is absolutely no way to avoid this, as this is a scripted event. With my method of movement and no grappling hook, it didn't take a Sherlock Holmes to realize that this run was f***ed. Multiple tries and different methods later, I decided you cannot beat Dying Light without walking or running. Unless... That's right, boys. Here on the Senza YouTube channel, you never know what to expect. There is a reason they call me the Gandhi of gaming. My determination and will inspires many across the globe, and I formally apologize to your underwear because you are going to need a new pair after witnessing this triumph. While dicking around trying to figure out how not to make this crane my grave, I found an interesting bug. If you look directly up at one of the crane's ledges and jump, you can effortlessly make your way up to the top. From here, if you balance on the zip lines, you could make it onto the bridge without Rise trying to destroy it. This tech here was massive, and one that would lead us to our eventual victory. We still had to solve one more problem though, jumping from the bridge to the building. The horizontal distance needed for this jump was far greater than I could output. This alone should have been a run killer, but luckily there was an item that could assist me in this very jump. To obtain it would involve having to reset the quest checkpoint and do this all over again, which was not an option. So I consulted a good friend of mine, and it turns out that he had the exact item that I needed. The Pizza suit is a consumable obtained during an Easter egg in the base game of Dying Light. Using it while jumping allows you to glide for a short distance, specifically the optimal distance needed for this jump. I joined the resident bestie, he dropped me the item, and I returned back to my save to accomplish the impossible. Just as I suspected, the pizza suit turned this jump into a pizza cake. Using the suit a few more times to get to the roof, I eventually made it there. This run was finally over, but once again, here's another plot twist, baby. Performing that skip during the scripted section bugs the game, thus making it literally impossible to beat. Approaching this ladder here should have started a cutscene, but no matter what I did, I couldn't even trigger it. I even somehow got myself onto the platform where you kill Rise, and still nothing. If you come prepared, you can technically beat Dying Light without walking. The only thing missing would be the final cutscene. I, on the other hand, didn't. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to comment #GamerGunk, and I'll heart all of your comments. As always, if you enjoyed the content, suplex that like button, and consider supporting these crusades through Patreon or the YouTube Join tab. I appreciate you all for stopping by and enjoying this quality shitpost. Thank you to the Diaper Booty Chairmen here on YouTube and Patreon, and remember, peace, love, and boners. Blessings to all, and I'll catch you boys in the next one.